What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Shanae Grant, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of Leadership Plus with Dr. G. This is a podcast where we keep it real about what it takes to lead, grow, and inspire others to be their absolute best. And I'm just so delighted that I get to be your host. Of course, I would be remiss if I did not ask you to go back and be sure to check out all of the previous episodes of Leadership Plus with Dr. G. And most importantly, I ask that you share it with somebody who you know could benefit from these insights. And please do oblige and like and subscribe. If you subscribe, you get notifications of new episodes coming out, so you will be the first to hear about all this goodness, right? So again, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. I know you have much on your plate, especially those leaders out there who are just trying to juggle and make it all fit. But if you are riding to work or on your way home or going in between meetings and listening in right now, I thank you for joining me, right? So be safe out there. All right, today I'm going to talk about a topic that I decided to address because I keep coming across this issue, or this issue keeps getting shared with me rather, from leaders, especially in mission-driven organizations, right? Small, mission-driven organizations that, by the way, are doing amazing work, tremendous work out there serving youth, serving families, the food banks, the food drives, the people that are doing scholarships, the ones that are helping single mothers go back to college, the ones that are helping high school students, think through their future and how to make good decisions so that they can set themselves up for, successful and impactful lives. But somehow, with all the work they're doing, they feel invisible. They feel unsupported. They feel like they are not getting the kind of supports that they need to continue to grow the organization and have the organization thrive and continue to serve more and do more in the space that they exist. So today I'm going to call it, we want to name it today. We want to kind of talk about that and name it, because sometimes you just have to name it. You have to identify it. You have to name it. And once you have done that, then you are able to now address it, if that makes sense, right? Today's topic is about invisible impact. In other words, you're out there and you're doing great work. You're doing all of what I named before. You're doing amazing stuff. You're just amazing and impactful work that is benefiting the community. And by the way, oftentimes you are filling in gaps where systems have failed children, have failed women, have failed families, have failed people, right? A lot of times that's what you're doing. You are filling in the gaps where systems have failed, but somehow the funders, the donors, the corporations, media, does not always recognize the work that you're doing. Invisible impact. Here's one thing I want you to know before I even get started. I want you to know that the work you are doing makes a difference. I want you to know that your impact is real, and I want you to know, and I want you to applaud yourself, because it is your heart. It's the heart for the work you do and for your organization that is making it happen, that is filling need and that is filling gaps. You are doing amazing work. So whether or not that work is being recognized or supported, I want you, if you hear nothing today, I want you to know that you are doing impactful and meaningful work. But like I said, somehow you can't seem to get the funding you need to scale the work. You can't get the funding you need to support the work you're doing right now. And you, as the leader, you are running around like a chicken with your head cut off, probably wearing 20 different hats in the organization because you don't have the resources to do otherwise. You don't have the resources to bring staff on and to help you scale and grow and do the work that is so necessary and so important. And some days you just feel really dejected. You feel like, why am I doing all of this work? Nobody seems to care. Nobody seems to know about it. Nobody seems to want to support it. And that's how you wake up some mornings feeling, right? You're making a difference. And I'm sure those you serve can attest to that. Those you serve, and you know the impact you're making and the work that you're doing. But somehow we need to be able to take you from where you are feeling invisible to where the entire community and others are really seeing and getting to know your impact, invisible impact, right? Many organizations are facing that. Again, the reason I decided to do this episode is because I am daily talking to leaders, CEOs, executive directors of nonprofits, and they're facing the same dilemma. So we're going to talk about that for a little bit. We've already named it. Today we're going to talk about one, why. Why is it that while you are doing amazing work, somehow it just seems to not be noticed? Why is your impact not visible? The other thing we want to talk about is the role of trust and the role that trust plays in growing your organization and increasing your visibility. Trust with your community, trust with your stakeholders, trust with those you serve, trust internal in terms of your actual organization, the people who work for and with you. We want to talk about how you can show up. What are some of the things that you can do to show up and be present and tell your story of impact so that others can, one, see the work, others can trust the work, and eventually they will support the work, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. You and I both know that most days, right, you are too busy. You are too busy wearing all the hats. You are the program manager, you are the events coordinator, you're the fundraising director. You are wearing all the hats in the organization. So when I say, why aren't you visible? You don't have time. Where would you find time to do all of that and still worry about posting to Instagram, right? Or posting to LinkedIn or Facebook, or doing a PR marketing campaign? You don't even have a marketing team. You don't have a team. You don't have the budget to hire a firm. You don't have any of that. And that is probably your response. You're saying to me, where am I going to find time to do all of that? Well, that is the problem. Because here's the deal. It is unfortunate, and it really is unfortunate that the world cannot support something that they can't see. It's not unfortunate. I think it's logical. It's logical, but the frustrating truth is that the world, your community, your potential donors, the stakeholders, they cannot support something they cannot see. They cannot trust something they cannot see. How are they going to trust that what you say you're doing is what you're doing if they cannot see it? And if they cannot see it and if they cannot trust it, I am here to tell you that unfortunately, they will not support or fund it either. I know you know this. I'm not sharing anything with you that you don't already know. So you cannot be too busy to talk about the work. You cannot be too busy to share the work. And you know what the real dilemma is? Let me tell you what the real dilemma is, especially for individuals in mission space, in mission workspace, right? Nonprofits, schools. Let me tell you what the real dilemma is. Many individuals who get involved in this kind of work, they do so because they have a servant leadership kind of heart. They just want to do good work. That's all they care about. They wake up every morning and they are fulfilled just seeing the impact that their work has on those that they touch and those that they serve. So for them, talking about the work sometimes is very unnatural. It's very unnatural. And we're actually schooled sometimes to think that because we talk about the work, we are bragging about the work. Well, yeah, you need to be bragging about the work. But it's not bragging in a vain sort of mode. It's bragging because you must be able to tell the stories of the work that you are doing. If you don't tell the story, people won't know the work. People won't see what you're doing. And it's unfortunate, but unfortunately, people cannot support the work. So you cannot be too busy doing the work to the point where you do not have time to talk about the work, okay? Let me be very clear. Visibility is not vanity. There's a big difference. This is not you trying to be a social media influencer. This is not you trying to take over TikTok and Instagram. That's not what this is about. You're not trying to build followers. What you're trying to do is really share your story so that you can garner potential partners in the work, supporters of the work. People will help you tell stories of the work that you are doing. That's what you're doing. So make no mistakes. If you're not being seen, if you're not being heard, people don't understand what you're doing, and in return, they can't support what it is that you are doing. Right? So the why you remain invisible is because you have not taken the time to tell the story of the amazing work that you're doing, the kids you're helping, the youth you're helping, the young people, they're all the same, right? Youth, young people, all the same. Children you're helping, the pregnant mothers you're working with, the families that you're clothing and feeding, the young woman who you're sending back to college because they dropped out due to pregnancy or whatever it was, or hard times or financial resources. That kid who grew up in an environment where they had no example of what success looks like, and you are on a mission to make sure you can help them break that cycle, that generational cycle where kids and youth do not understand what they can be in life and what it's going to take for them to aspire to be more than what they're seeing around them, because you are creating programs that are exposing them to the possibility of all that could be. You're doing amazing work, impactful work, but nobody knows about it. Nobody knows about it. So again, let me remind you, people cannot support the work if they don't see the work. If they don't see the work, they can't trust the work, that the work is really happening, that it's real. They can't support it. So it's up to you to make sure that you are never too busy to tell the story, right? Never too busy. Give yourself some grace. Don't beat up on yourself right now. I know some of you are probably going, yep, that's me. That's me. I know it's hard, but give yourself some grace, because one, I know you're making impact. The people you serve know you're making impact. You know you're making impact. But guess what? Impact alone cannot grow the organization. Impact alone cannot help the organization thrive. You really have to think about all the other pieces that are going to continue to help you grow and really, really, really make great impacts, right? You don't have to be a PR machine. This is not what this is about. This is not what this is about. This is just about making sure that your work gets the recognition that it deserves and the support that it needs, because your mission can thrive, but it will not thrive in the shadows. Your work, your organization can thrive, but it's not going to thrive in the shadows. And by the way, this is not only in mission. Well, education is also mission-driven organizations. But as I'm thinking about it, I think about even my past experience as a school principal, right? When I was a principal, there are, and I am not the only one who has lived this story. There are schools that are in marginalized areas that have reputations that sometimes, by the way, the reputation of the school is decades old. So many things have happened in that school over the years that have changed, transformed. The school district has invested, principals have invested, communities have invested. But because a school has a particular reputation, which I lived that was my lived experience, right? People will say to me, oh, that's the school you're a principal of? Yes, that is the school I'm principal of. And by the way, I don't care what you think it is. I would love to invite you to come and see what's really going on. When I was a principal, I was one of the first principals that became really active on Twitter at the time. because I started making sure that we were posting and talking about all of the successes and all of the great things that were happening on that campus. We were bombarding social media with the things. We were giving the place facelifts and making sure that the rest of the world and the rest of the county understood and knew that that particular school was a place of choice for their child. And if they came there, not only were they going to be safe, they were going to get a good education. This happens in all kinds of sectors. You could even be in corporate. Your brand may have a bad reputation. It is up to you to tell the story, to retell the story, and to make sure that the narrative is exactly what you want it to be. Because here's the deal. If you don't tell the story, first of all, somebody may be sharing a bad narrative for you on your behalf. Or even worse, there might be nothing at all. Silence. You almost don't exist. Invisible. So while you are creating impact, it is important for you to understand that creating impact alone is not enough. It's important for you to understand that you must tell your story. You must share your story of impact, your work. You must share it. It is crucially and critically important. Okay? The other thing I want to talk about for a minute, I mentioned trust. People don't see it. They don't trust it. If they don't trust it, they don't support it. Before people can believe it, they have to see it. When they see it, eventually they start to trust it. When they trust it, they will be more inclined to support it. Now, here's a kicker about trust, right? Trust is a really tricky thing. Real tricky. One, it's important to build it. And you don't build trust overnight. That's the spoiler alert right here. You don't wake up and then decide that by tomorrow morning, you're going to have your stakeholders and your sponsors and your corporate donors trusting the work and trusting what you do. Trust is built over time. Over time. How do you make sure that happens? One, you show up. You show up when you say you're going to show up. You do what you say you're going to do. You don't have the program that you promised that was going to launch 2 years ago still sitting on the shelf. You show up. Even if you cannot stay the entire time, you pass through just to make sure you give an update. You make sure that you're keeping people informed, right? You have to show up. You have to be present. People have to see you. Trust. Ways that you can build trust. You have to be consistent. This is hard for some leaders. You must be consistent. Consistency is key to trust. If you say you're going to put out a video recording every Monday just to give an update to the stakeholders or to the parents or your constituents or whatever it looks like, and every other Monday they go on looking for that update and it's not there, what you're doing is eroding the trust that you're trying to build. You may not even have any to begin with. You have to be consistent. So one, you got to show up and you have to be consistent. And consistency does not require a lot of hard work. It could be that you're putting out one voice message per week. It could be that you're sending just an update email. It could be that you are doing a video recording, once a month. It could be a newsletter that you've committed to sending out. Consistency. It's not necessarily about quantity. It's about quality and consistency. Your folks will be looking for it on Monday. And if you say it's going to be on Monday, it better be on Monday. You have to be consistent. Trust is a currency. It's a currency that moves everything forward. It moves everything forward. And it's important that you understand that building that and building those are key. Building trust is key to establishing and building great partnerships and building support for the work that you do. Trust is built, like I said, when you show up. Trust is also built when you're consistent. The other way is communication. If they don't hear from you, how can they trust you? Communicate clearly, communicate often, communicate the good things. And by the way, communicate when things aren't going so well. People are more forgiving than you really even give them credit for. Sometimes the update that you're communicating is just that, hey, we're dealing with a snag right now and we don't really have much to update you on, but we're working on a snag, a problem, an issue. And as soon as we get past that, we will let you know where we at and we'll provide a status update. Trust is also admitting when you've dropped the ball. That's the hard one for many of us. When you've dropped the ball, when you've made the mistake, when you need to self-correct, sometimes you need to be able to share that transparency. Sometimes you need to be able to share that because it's in those moments when people really can relate, right? Relate, follow through, consistency, commitment, communication, and making sure that you also can talk about when you have not done everything quite right. And by the way, what are you going to do to address it and do better? That's super important. While we are building trust, make no mistake, you can also lose it. It is a very fragile thing. Trust is fragile. It is very fragile. And as quickly as you have gained it, you can lose it 10 times faster. And that can rear its head in so many different ways. It could be just the email that you forgot to respond to or didn't respond to, whether on purpose or by accident. It could be that the information you communicated did not seem to quite reflect the community you serve. It could be that your board makeup does not reflect the individuals or the constituents that you serve. It could be that people, like I mentioned, are still waiting for programs or services that you promised how many years ago or how many months ago, and they still have not come to fruition. You can lose the trust of the people that you serve in an instant when these things happen. So while you are working to build trust, I want you to be very cognizant that though you're working so hard to build it, you can lose it even quicker in an instant. In an instant. Trust does not require perfection. It doesn't require perfection. As you are working to build trust with your constituents, again, with your donors, those you serve, your potential sponsors, the corporations that you're looking to engage with you and engage with the organization, just remember it does not require perfection. Nobody's expecting you to be perfect. What they're expecting you to do is to show up and be honest about it, right? They don't expect that you have all the answers. They just want to know that you're being real, that you're being real with them. They just want to know that you're coming to the table with honest, real conversations about what is happening with the organization. And that's something that every leader, no matter how big or small your team is, you need to make sure that you do. And when you start to build trust, right, along with your visibility, like we talked about earlier, you got to make sure that you show up, make sure you're telling your story, make sure that people understand what's happening in the organization. Because if they don't know what's happening, if they don't see what's happening, visibility, they can't trust that when you say support me or come to an event. That's another thing too. Invite them to the event. It's a part of your visibility strategy. It's a part of your trust building strategy. Invite individuals to the things that you're doing. And if you can do those things, what will happen is that people will start to trust your mission, trust the work you're doing, trust your leadership, and they will be more inclined to support the work that you are doing. Okay? So don't forget that. It's important for you to be visible, and it's also important for you to build trust within the organization. Now, the reality is a lot of things can get in the way of visibility building, for example, right? Which equates to trust building, like we talked about earlier. A lot of things can get in the way. And you and I both know that some of the things that are in the way, it's sort of what comes first, the chicken or the eggs? I can't get the funding to do the work I need to do. I can't do the work because I can't get the funding I need, right? It's the chicken or the egg. So we're talking about, one, starting where you are. So nothing I'm saying to you right now has anything to do with you, me thinking you're going to go hire staff and 10 people, because this is why we're having this conversation, because it's usually the under-resourced, understaffed organizations that really struggle with a lot of the things that I'm talking about right now, right? So while we now understand that it's important to build visibility, it's important to build trust, let's talk about some of the things that get in the way of doing those things, right? Number one, I just said it: under-resourced, understaffed. You don't have the people. You don't have the PR department. How can you spend time being visible, showing up to events, participating in other things when you're over here putting out so many fires? Because again, like I mentioned, you're the program director, you're the HR director, you're the marketer, you're all of it, right? Your team is stretched thin. You have a small team and everybody is carrying extra loads. How can you do that? That's the obvious one why it's hard to be visible. And again, like I said, visibility ties directly into the trust factor, which goes into the support, right? It is impossible to do all of this. This is what you're saying right now. Just keep it real. You're understaffed. You're a small organization. You're leading the change, but you are wearing 12 different hats. You're everything. So you don't have a communications team. You don't have a PR team to do all the work that I'm talking about. And by the way, you also feel very awkward talking about the work that you do because it's not your nature. It's not your nature, right? Servant leaders aren't anxious to talk about the things they do. This is huge for individuals in that space, especially in mission-driven organizations and schools. People don't want to talk about the work they do. They just want to come in and do it and be happy that it's getting done and that people are being served. That's what you want to do, right? So you are constantly being pulled in directions that, one, are not innately comfortable for you, but you've got to get comfortable in that space. You've got to get comfortable in that space. In addition to that, you've told yourself that, one, you're not ready to share the things you're doing yet. One, it's not polished enough. Oh, let me wait till I get a PR person who can make this look pretty. Once we hire someone, we'll start telling our story. You have gotten real comfortable, thinking that when I talk about it, it sounds very self-serving. I need you to snap out of that mode. Remember, I already told you, this is not about being perfect. I have shared this before. Done beats perfection every single time. Every single time. And I guarantee you, I know you have those stories. You have those videos. They're in your phone. They're on your computer. You have the stories. You have them ready to tell. But you get caught up in the perfection trap. If it's not just right, I can't post it just right. Listen, you're not preparing for a TED Talk. Sharing your impact and sharing the work you do is not a TED Talk. It's not a TED Talk, and it does not have to be perfect. Do not get caught up in the perfection trap. That mindset will have you always lagging behind. Tell your story. Do not sit on those powerful stories for years on your phone. You keep changing phones from one to the other. You transfer the gallery from one phone to the other. Every time your contract expires, you upgrade your phone. But nobody sees it. Nobody hears about it. Nobody's able to share the amazing work and impactful work that you're doing. You're running the impactful programs. You're changing lives every day, day in and day out. And no one except those in your inner circle knows what you're doing. Not your potential funders, not the corporate space you're in, not the communities you serve. Sometimes it's just you and the people that you're serving that knows what you're doing. Bad idea. Bad idea. You've got to get comfortable talking about the work, right? And in doing so, you shouldn't always be the one talking about the work you do. I want you to get into the space where you are building people, tapping into people who can help you spread the word of the work you're doing, who can share the story for you. You really shouldn't always be the one, right? Get a story from, a client you served or a student or an adult, whatever it is. Tell them to record a 30-minute, 30-second video for you and send it to you. And that'll be your storytelling. It's a part of what you're doing as part of telling your story about the work, right? So those are some of the ways that you can seek to build brand visibility, making sure that you are telling the story of the work that you're doing. Start from where you are. Get a shared folder on your phone or on the cloud or something, and drop in photos every week. You start to do that, you got content for days. You got content for days. You start to do that. But when you put in the folder, now you got to use them. Right? Don't fall into the trap, like I said, of they just sit there. You've got to use them. And I already mentioned, let other people, bring people on board who can tell the story for you, right? Tap into it. Be intentional. Be intentional, because it really should not always be your voice. Let others share their testimonials of the work that you are doing for them, that you are doing, the impact that you're making. It's also important that you simplify your message. People need to know what you do. What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? I run a program where where we create opportunities for young teen mothers who unfortunately dropped out of high school because of pregnancy. So we run a program to rehabilitate them and get them back into school, make sure they get a college education. Simplify your message. Whatever that is, you should be able to say that in one sentence. One sentence. We run a program where teens who have fallen trapped to teenage pregnancies have a chance to get back into college, to get an education, to get a degree. Simplify your message. Make sure people understand what it is that you do, because if they understand what you do, one, they can help you share it. If what you do when you share it is filled with, if it's complicated or lengthy and filled with jargon, they won't be able to repeat it. And if they can't repeat it, they can't help to share it, which means that they can't help to support and bring others on board to support it, right? Here's another tip that I have for you. I have talked about how stretched you are and the fact that you don't have a big team to do any of these things, especially as you talk about how do you share your impact, especially with the social media pieces to tell the story. Pick one platform. You don't have to be on all of them. Pick one, because the key is that you pick one and you're consistent with the one. Now, there are all kinds of resources that you can use to do other things, right? But I want you to get started right where you are, whatever you're most comfortable with. You may already have an account on Facebook. Maybe that's what you'll use. Pick one. The key is to be consistent. If you decide you're going to post once a week, post once a week. Once a day, post once a day. Consistency is key. Pick one. You don't have to be all over the place. Remember, this is not about being social media influencers. This is not about growing followings, because you can have all the followings in the world and not one of them is going to give you a penny or show up to help to teach a program or show up to help mentor a child. None of them, right? That has nothing to do with what the world looks for when they talk about visibility on social media. This is just you being able to tell your stories. How many times do I go to certain individuals' website, or I'll just click on a website for a nonprofit or an organization and the website isn't even updated. You got to be consistent. So whatever that one you pick one and stick to it. And make sure that you are consistent with it. Just show up consistently. It's not about how often, but you need to make sure that it's consistent. That's what's important. The other tip I want to give you is that you can really help to amplify or bring visibility to your brand, to your mission, to your organization, if you find people to collaborate with. But you got to be strategic about it. Find individuals, similar organizations perhaps, individuals who already have a brand. I'm going to call it like, what's that word they use? It's called, it's like a credit line, right? Let's borrow credit from somebody else. Hop onto their credibility, right? Partner, bring them in, invite them to an event, because they come to an event and you take a picture, you post it, and when somebody sees you with certain people, automatically they're more inclined to go, hey, what's happening over there? What was that all about? And if that individual, because you have spent the time to build some trust, to share what you do, is able to articulate what it is that you actually do, that individual will be able to share with the rest of the world or whomever they come in contact with the work that you're doing, increasing your visibility, right? So partner with somebody who's already trusted in the community. Like I said, use it as a credit line, right? Hop on somebody else's credit. We know that story, right? And go ahead and use that as a way to build your credibility. Now, here's something that's really difficult for many of us. I've said it 100 times because I've used this word, but I'm going to call it out and I'm going to name it separately. Consistency. Consistency. You must show up consistently. It doesn't matter what it is. Whether it is that you're going to pick that one platform and that's what you're going to post on every day or do something or every week or whatever it is. You got to consistently tell the stories or find opportunities to tell the stories. You got to consistently show up to wherever the events or, whatever it is that you said you're going to do. You got to be consistent about it. If people expect you to show and you don't show, you're eroding the trust. You're not being consistent, and then people will be less inclined to support. So remain consistent. Again, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be a monthly newsletter. It could be a quarterly Zoom chat where you're just bringing people in. It could be that you theme something, call it Transformation Tuesdays, and that's where you post whatever your impact is for your organization. It could be a handwritten note that you do every 3 months to your partners, your potential partners, because you're always going to have to continue to nurture those. Whatever you do it consistently. Do it consistently. So let's review just for a minute. 1, you already have stories. Share them. You have plenty of stories. Pull out the phone you didn't turn in that has a lost gallery somewhere. Pull them out. You have stories. Share them. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. You don't need to be perfect. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to always have a good story to tell. Right? When you have bad stories to tell, share those and invite others to come in and be a part of your solution as it relates to problem solving and finding solutions to those problems and those barriers that you're facing. So you don't have to be perfect. Be ready to admit when you are the one who messed up. Be ready to admit when you are the one who needs to self-correct and do what you need to do. And you don't need to be everywhere. You don't need to be everywhere. You just need to be somewhere. Just show up somewhere. And wherever you show up, be consistent about it. You don't have to do it alone. You don't have to do this alone. Partner and amplify your voice, right? Build strategic partnerships and amplify your voice. Like I said, the goal is not to be an influencer or build followers. The goal is to really secure strategic partners who are going to help you and support the work, and who's going to help to amplify your visibility so that you can move from invisible impact to visible impact. So people can see, in the world and your community can know the work you're doing and why it is important, and be more inclined to support the work that you are doing. There's just so much more that we could talk about in this topic. So much more that we can talk about. So now that you know exactly what's standing in the way, right? Visibility, which is important. Trust building is important. And we also understand the barriers to building visibility. Under-resourced, right? You don't have the team, you don't have, the time, but we have tackled some simple ways that you can do that. Being consistent about things, not being everywhere, but making sure that you show up in some places, be consistent in wherever you decide to show up, partnering with someone who already has that credibility, right? Borrowed credit, right? Borrowed credibility. Then some of the other things that you really want to focus on is, how do you start to build trust internally so that the external can see and really it's almost like a validating factor for people who are on the outside looking in, right? We talk about community trust. We've talked about visibility, but I want to shift inwards for just a minute, because while external trust is important, external trust is deeply rooted and connected to internal trust. If your team don't trust you, if your team don't trust your leadership, if your team is, and your stakeholders are, if your team is disengaged, if your volunteers feel in the dark, we're gonna have a problem. Those who are not connected to the organization are going to have a hard time tapping into and supporting the organization. Trust starts in-house. Your team, whether that's your staff, your board members, your volunteers, that one amazing part-time admin person that you have, they need to know what's going on, and they need to be seen, they need to feel heard, and they need to feel valued. So it's important that internally you're also working on systems that will help you be able to move from invisible impact to visible impact, right? Build the trust factor within the organization. Create regular communication loops, quarterly meetings, updates, celebrate progress, acknowledge setbacks. These are all things that are part of making sure that you're communicating clearly internally. It's important to share your wins, but also share the things that keep you up at night. Share the worries as well. It's okay. We're having a funding gap this month. We didn't hit our goal this month, but here's how we're adjusting. Here are the adjustments we're making. Ask for input. Ask the individuals within your team, invite them to be a part of the problem-solving process. People support what they help to build. I'll say that one more time. People will support what they help to build. It is so simple. It is so simple. And it's also very important for you to acknowledge the hard stuff, the overwhelming, the burnout, the uncertainty, right? The uncertainty that your team feels. Don't ignore it. Address it. Address it. Even naming it. Just naming it builds trust. Doesn't mean that you have to have an answer. You just want to name it. You just want to name the exhaustion that you're seeing on everybody's face. You just want to name the stress that you see walking. You feel it in the building because everybody knows we're off target. We know we're not meeting goals. You just want to name it. Those are things that build trust within your organization. The truth is, people trust what they can see and experience. They trust leaders who are present, not just positioned. You can't build authentic trust with your community from behind a desk or just behind the social media feed, by the way. It takes a lot of proximity to do that. Attend the community events. Respond to feedback, even when it is uncomfortable. Share your learning, not just your wins. So here's what I want you to remember as we wrap up. You don't need to be loud to be seen. You don't need to be perfect to be trusted. But here's what you have to do. You just have to start showing up. You have to start showing up. And you have got to start to think about these things differently and how you address them, how you move from invisible impact to visible impact, how you change your strategy to garner support from potential others, right? How do you keep those that are supporting now consistently supporting? How do you make sure that individuals can share the story of your impact on your behalf and in behalf of the organization and the work that you are doing? Those things are important. Pull out the unpolished photo, do a post, talk about it, be visible, show up, be consistent, and make sure that your constituents, your community, your organization, those you serve, know that you are here to create real impact. Make sure they know that you are doing the work that you say you are doing, because in doing so, they will be more inclined to support. And in doing that, you will be able to move yourself and move your organization from invisible impact to visibility. With that said, like I said, thank you for joining me. If this was of any value to you, please share with your network. Make sure that somebody who is dealing with the same issues can learn from whatever insights are shared here. And I look forward to seeing you again next time on Leadership Plus with Dr. G. Ciao.